Welcome back. Let's continue with our lecture on mathematical methods. Today's topic is slightly digression from the Fourier series. I've realized that some of you have not covered the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization process which usually taught in the vector spaces. So let me briefly go over. It's very important topic. One need to understand that in a given a n linearly independent vectors, it is always possible to construct an n orthonormal vectors from them through a process called the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization process. So it is quite important for a vector space to able to find an orthonormal set of linearly independent vectors. We know that they form the basis of a vector space. So let's continue with this lecture, and after that we will continue with our normal Fourier series and related problems. Before going any further, let's first look at the completeness of Hilbert space once again. This is to say that a set of linearly independent vectors are given to you. The question you ask is whether the set of linearly independent vectors form a basis or not. A Hilbert space is said to be complete if set of linearly independent vectors phi I satisfies the following condition, that is phi I dot phi j. In the quantum mechanics notation, we have phi I dot phi j is equal to delta ij. This is a Kronecker delta. So it basically mean to say that you are getting an identity matrix for a finite dimension. In the case of infinite dimension or countably infinite dimension, again you can write it as a delta ij. In the quantum mechanics, often you might have heard about the completeness of Hilbert space is defined in the following way, where you have the outer product of a linearly independent vectors phi I, phi j is equal to identity matrix or the unit transformation. Once this condition is satisfied, these bases can be used to express any element psi as a linear combination of them. That is, psi is equal to some n a n phi n. So that means that any vector can be expressed in terms of phi n. That means phi n from the basis element of the Hilbert space. Question now to ask is whether a set of linearly independent vectors given, whether you can construct an orthonormal set or not. If you can construct an orthonormal set, then they form a basis, otherwise not. For the finite dimension, this can be done using the process called the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization process. That is, if you have given a n linearly independent vectors, then you can form an orthonormal set and they would form a basis. However, for infinite dimension, this condition have to be satisfied, and that is what we call is a completeness. Let us continue and look at the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization. We have seen that the orthonormal bases are very useful in computation because a lot of calculation get simplified. Given a basis, they always need not be orthonormal. Next question is it possible to produce a orthonormal basis for a set of given non-orthonormal bases? Answer is yes, and procedure is a Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization procedure where you construct an orthonormal basis from a basis which are not orthonormal. So this was developed independently by Gram and Schmidt and now named after them. It was said that Laplace also knew this procedure, but this has already caught up with the name that Gram-Schmidt procedure. It would unlikely call the Laplace method. Let's look at this procedure. How do we do this orthonormalization? Let's say E1, E2, E3, En are the element of our basis vector in a vector space V. Since they are bases, EIs are linearly independent, but it is not necessary that EIs are orthonormal. That is, their dot product with respect to each other need not be zero, or the vectors element themselves need not be unit vectors. The Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization is a procedure by which we construct a new basis f cap I which are orthonormal from the bases EI which are not necessarily orthonormal. The procedure goes as follows. First, we choose an arbitrary element from the basis EI. Let's say the first one, let's call it E1. This vector forms the first element of our new basis. Since f1 is a not normal vector, you can divide it by its norm and construct a unit vector. We call it a f cap. F cap is equal to f1 divided by norm of f1. This forms the first element of our new basis. Let's construct the second element, which need to be orthogonal to the first element. We choose one more element arbitrary from the basis EI. Let's call it E2. Now E1 is not orthogonal to E2, and then we expect that the f1 cap is also not orthogonal to E2. So we need to construct f2 such that it is orthogonal to f1. So this can be done by with the following construct. f2 is equal to E2 minus E2 dot f1 cap into f1. So what is really going on this procedure? Let's first look at in a simplified pictorial manner in R2, then we can easily understand in a general case. Let's say that f1, we know it's already a unit vector, so it should draw on the unit circle, and then we have an element E2 which is not a unit vector. Neither it is in the orthogonal to f1. That means to say that E1 dot f1 cap is not equal to 0, and let's look at that component in the direction of f1. So we have to subtract that E2, that we multiply it with the minus sign so that the flip the direction, and then we can use parallelogram law to add it with the E2 because we have already flipped the sign, and hence produce the vector f2. We can clearly see that this produced f2 is orthogonal to f1 cap. So what are we really doing here? Let's look at it more carefully, and it's an important procedure which are used in several places in the physics. What we call is a projection of a vector orthogonal to a unit vector. So it's called the projection operator. So projection operator is defined for a unit vector. Let u cap be a unit vector for any arbitrary vector v, then the v perpendicular is equal to v minus v dot u cap into u cap is the component of v orthogonal to u1. And that procedure is called the taking the projection orthogonal to unit vector u. It is easy to check that u perpendicular is orthogonal to u cap. So it's a straightforward procedure by which one defines an orthogonal operator, operates on any arbitrary vector and produces vector orthogonal to unit u. So we define our f2 is with the projection orthogonal to f1 cap. f2 and f1 are orthogonal to each other now, and we can normalize f2 by defining f2 cap is equal to f2 by the norm of f2. So this forms the second element of our basis. Now they are orthonormal. Now we go ahead and construct the third vector. So at this stage it might look routine, but the idea is to understand orthogonal operator, or the operator which projects component normal to a unit vector. Let's take another arbitrary vector from the collection of bases EI. So let's call it E3. So now we construct F3 as follows. F3 as E3 minus component of E3 in the F1 minus component of E3 along F2 so that it is orthogonal to both. Let's look at more carefully about orthogonal operator. From our previous definition of orthogonal operator, we see that this in the box define the projection operator orthogonal to F1 cap. So it basically remove the component of E3 in the direction of F1 cap. Let's look at the full expression, and we see that this expression essentially is a projection operator orthogonal to both F1 and F2 because it removes the component of E3 in the direction of F1 cap and the component of E3 in the direction of F2 cap. So this should be orthogonal to both F1 and F2. And once we normalize it by dividing it with its norm, that is the E3 cap is equal to E3 by the norm of E3 gives us our third element of our basis vector. Just for the practice, let's do it for the fourth element. Now we have three elements, F1 cap, F2 cap and F3 cap. So the fourth element should be orthogonal to all of them. So we take fourth element E4 from the basis collection of bases EI to construct F4 as follows. F4 is constructed by taking E4 and removing the component of E4 in the direction of F1 vector and removing the component of E4 in the F2 direction and removing the component of E4 in the direction of E3. From this construct, projection operator orthogonal to F1 cap, F2 cap and F3 cap, F4 is naturally orthogonal to all of them. And what we have once we normalize F4 as F4 vector divided by norm of F4 forms our fourth element. This way we can straightforward establish a general relation nth vector of nth basis vector of Fn can be written from Emin as F minus En minus component of En in all the F cap n minus 1 direction. From the construction, it is easy to show that the Fn is orthogonal to all the F cap I for I is equal to 1 to n minus 1. So this and normalize this vector and we construct the unit vector and collection of all these unit vector. We do it for all the elements in EI. We complete the basis F I cap and these are orthonormal bases. The procedure is simply called the Gram-Schmidt orthonormal procedure. Let's take a simple example. Let's look at our example vector space R2 is not our R2D2 whipping along the space. It is simply R2 real 2D space. One set of bases is given by E1 is equal to 1, 1. E2 is equal to 2 minus 1. It is easy to show that they are linearly independent and hence they form the basis element. We just need to take the linear combination of this alpha into E1 plus beta into E2 can be 0 if and only if alpha is equal to 0 and beta is equal to 0. So that is a basic condition of linearly independent vector. Now we go ahead and apply Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization. Our F1 vector is a E1 itself, which is a 1, 1, but it is not a unit vector. So we need to find its norm and divide it to form a unit vector. It is easy to show that the norm is 1 over root 2 and then F1 cap becomes 1 over root 2 into 1, 1. Now we go ahead and find the F2. The F2 has to be constructed from E2, which is 2 minus 1. The component of F1 cap in the direction of E2 has to be removed from E2, and we take the dot product between E2 and F1, that is 1 over square root of 2, 1, 1 dot 2 minus 1. It is easy to show that this dot product is a 1 over root 2. So we need to basically remove this component of E2, that is 2, 1, 1, minus the norm of the vector, that is 1 over root 2, and the unit vector, that is 1 over root 2 into 1, 1. So this basically forms the 2 half into 1 and 1. So the resulting vector F2 is 3 over 2, 1 minus 1. Again, this is not a unit vector, so one can simply find out the norm of this, that is square, that is 3 by 2 square plus 3 by 2 square. So that turns out to be 3 over root 2. So F2 becomes, that is divide the vector by its norm, it becomes 1 over root 2 into 1 into minus 1. These two now forms a new basis, F1 cap and F2. It is easy to show that they are orthonormal, that is how we have constructed it, and that is what essentially we need. The next is a homework. It's fairly straightforward problem, but however it needs to be done. Let's consider the vector space R3 with the following vectors. E1 is equal to 1, 2, 2, E2 is equal to minus 1, 0, 2, and E3 equal to 0, 0, 1. The first is to show that they form the basis. That means you have to show that they are linearly independent. It means they span the entire vector space. The second is to construct the set of orthonormal bases. Clearly, the E1, E2, E3 are not orthonormal bases, so you need to apply Gram-Schmidt process to construct orthonormal bases from this.